Have you ever felt completely drained by someone who claims to care about you? They never yell, they never hit you, but somehow, you're always the bad guy. You aren't going crazy, you're being hunted by a dark empath. Let's look at the neuroscience of how they did it. When we think of a psychological predator, our minds immediately go to the classic extremes. We picture the overt narcissist, loudly obsessed with their own reflection, demanding the spotlight and validation in every room they enter. Or we imagine the cold, calculating psychopath, erratic, aggressive, and entirely devoid of basic human emotion. Society has trained us to look for monsters in the shadows, to build massive walls against those who show us overt cruelty or aggression. But what happens when the monster doesn't try to break down your walls? What happens when the most dangerous person in your life is also the one who patiently sits with you, holds your hand, and listens to you cry? Welcome to the terrifying paradox of the dark empath. To comprehend the sheer danger of this personality type, we have to completely dismantle what we think we know about empathy. A dark empath is not an official clinical diagnosis you will find in a medical textbook. In the realm of modern personality research, it is something much more sophisticated. It is the perfect, deadly intersection of the dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, fused seamlessly with a highly developed sense of cognitive empathy. Most toxic individuals have a glaring blind spot. They cannot truly read the room. They don't genuinely understand how you feel, which makes their manipulation clumsy, forceful, and eventually obvious. But the dark empath has no such blind spot. They can read your micro-expressions, anticipate your emotional needs, and mirror your deepest vulnerabilities with terrifying precision. Here is the chilling reality you must accept. Their ability to accurately read your emotions does not equate to morality, kindness, or compassion. They possess cognitive empathy, meaning they understand your pain strictly through logic and observation, but they completely lack effective empathy. They do not feel your pain. They simply do not care that you are bleeding emotionally. To them, your mind is just a complex system waiting to be hacked. Their profound understanding of your childhood wounds, your hidden insecurities, and your deepest fears is not a comforting embrace. It is a highly calculated data-gathering process designed specifically to find your absolute fatal flaw. How exactly does a dark empath map out your mind so quickly? The answer lies in how their brain processes human interaction. When a normal person meets you, they are looking for genuine connection, shared interests, and mutual comfort. But when a dark empath meets you, they are conducting a psychological audit. They are cold reading you. In the fields of behavioral psychology and neuroscience, we look at how the brain processes social cues. A normal brain utilizes both the prefrontal cortex for logic and the insula for emotional resonance. A dark empath relies almost entirely on the logical processing centers when observing your emotions. They are hypervigilant. Within the first few hours of knowing you, they are meticulously scanning for micro-expressions, subtle shifts in your vocal tone, and the slight ways your body language changes when certain topics are mentioned. They are specifically hunting for your insecurities, your fear of abandonment, and your unresolved childhood trauma. You might think you are having a deep, meaningful late-night conversation, but what they are actually doing is establishing your emotional baseline. They are figuring out the exact algorithm of your mind. This psychological scanning process is completely invisible to you because of their flawless camouflage. Unlike a grandiose narcissist who takes up all the oxygen in the room, or a highly volatile individual who displays obvious anger issues, the dark empath operates in total stealth mode. They are incredibly calm, exceptionally polite, and possess absolute emotional control. They do not set off your standard toxic relationship alarms. Your brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, is biologically wired to look for aggression, yelling, or overt disrespect. Because the dark empath displays none of these, your amygdala remains quiet. Your brain actually registers them as a safe harbor. They present themselves as the stable, rational, and profoundly mature person you have been waiting for. Once they have bypassed your internal security system and established this illusion of total safety, the weapon gathering phase begins. They will manufacture an environment where you feel so entirely seen, so uniquely understood, that you gladly drop all your remaining defenses. They will ask you the right questions, validate your past hurts, and make you feel like you are the most fascinating person they have ever met. They use a technique called mirroring, reflecting your values, your desires, and your pain right back at you. Consequently, you start pouring out your deepest secrets, your worst fears, the heavy burdens you have never told anyone. You believe you are building intimacy. You believe you have found a soulmate. But for the Dark Empath, you are simply handing over ammunition. Every secret you share, every vulnerability you expose, every tear you shed is catalogued as a data point. They are taking precise notes on exactly how to dismantle your self-esteem when the time comes. They are learning what words will hurt you the most, what actions will trigger your anxiety, and exactly how to make you doubt your own sanity later on. The most terrifying part of this psychological infiltration is how passive it seems. They do not force their way into your mind. They do not break down your doors. They simply weave such a comforting, irresistible illusion of empathy that you willingly forge the key to your own mind, hand it over to them, and gently invite them inside. Once the data gathering phase is complete, and you have willingly handed over the blueprint to your deepest psychological wounds, the true psychological takeover begins. And this is where most people fundamentally misunderstand the nature of emotional danger. If you look at a traditional, overt narcissist, their primary motivation is incredibly easy to spot. They want the spotlight. They require constant external validation. They demand to be the center of attention in every room they enter, and they want you to serve as their permanent audience. They want to be the star of the show. But a Dark Empath? A Dark Empath does not care about the spotlight. They do not need to be the star. They want the director's chair. They do not want to be the center of the room. They want to be the quiet, unseen force that dictates the reality of everyone inside it. They seek maximum influence, not maximum attention. And the way they achieve this level of absolute control is nothing short of a psychological masterpiece. They do not control you by stripping away your freedom with force, aggression, or intimidation. They control you by stripping away your independence with kindness. In behavioral psychology, this is known as fostering dependency. The Dark Empath begins to seamlessly integrate themselves into every facet of your life under the guise of being exceptionally caring. When you have a bad day, they are immediately there with a solution. When you have an interpersonal conflict, they offer incredibly insightful advice on how to handle it. When you feel insecure, they shower you with the exact type of reassurance they already know your brain is craving. On the surface, this looks like the ultimate, unconditionally loving relationship, but beneath the surface, it is a highly calculated siege. By constantly positioning themselves as your ultimate savior, your therapist, and your voice of reason, they are systematically eroding your trust in yourself. Slowly, without you even realizing it, you stop trusting your own intuition. You stop making decisions without consulting them first. Because why would you? They have proven themselves to be so wise, so understanding, so deeply attuned to your needs. You begin to outsource your reality testing to them. If they say a situation happened a certain way, you believe them over your own memory. If they suggest that your reaction to something is slightly irrational, you immediately apologize and adjust your behavior. They have become the narrator of your life. This brings us to the ultimate red flag of a Dark Empath. A glaring, terrifying juxtaposition that often goes entirely unnoticed until the victim is on the verge of a mental breakdown. Look at the physiological and psychological deterioration of the victim and compare it to the pristine condition of the Dark Empath. If you are in a dynamic with this personality type, you will eventually find yourself constantly exhausted. You are experiencing chronic brain fog. Your self-esteem has completely plummeted. You find yourself constantly apologizing for things you didn't even do, simply to keep the peace. You feel like a hollowed-out, fragmented version of the vibrant person you used to be, constantly walking on eggshells. You feel like you are losing your mind, and yet, if you look at the Dark Empath, they are absolutely thriving. To the outside world, they look like a saint. They are the incredibly patient partner, the remarkably supportive best friend, or the amazing boss who is so graciously putting up with your sudden emotional instability, your anxiety, and your declining mental health. They have successfully engineered a dynamic where they are slowly poisoning your reality while simultaneously convincing everyone, including you, that they are the only antidote, which leads us to a chilling realization. a twist in human psychology that most victims of emotional abuse do not understand until it is far too late. The worst enemy you will ever encounter in your life is not the one who violently forces you into a cage and locks the door. The worst enemy is the one who gently strokes your hair, points at the outside world, and convinces you that it is completely terrifying, hostile, and dangerous out there, and that this cage, their cage, is the only place you will ever be truly safe. How exactly does a dark empath execute this covert takeover on a daily basis? They do not use explosive rage. They do not throw things or scream at you. Instead, they dismantle your self-esteem through a process of psychological attrition. It is death by 1,000 microscopic paper cuts. To protect yourself, you must learn to decode their microaggressions, the hidden language of their manipulation. The first tactic is something we can call Schrodinger's joke. Have you ever noticed that their particular brand of humor almost always comes at your expense? They will say something incredibly cutting, humiliating, or cruel, often in front of other people. Then, their eyes will lock onto you, analyzing your micro-expressions. If you look visibly hurt, or if you attempt to set a boundary and defend yourself, they immediately deploy their safety net. They will laugh, patronize you, and say, "Relax, I was just joking. Why are you always so sensitive?" But if you force a smile and laugh it off to avoid conflict, they have won. They have successfully moved your boundary line just a little bit further. The joke was never actually a joke, it was a probe. This naturally bleeds into their second weapon, the covert gaslighting and the weaponized apology. When you think of gaslighting, you might picture someone aggressively and loudly denying the truth. But a dark empath weaponizes their own calmness against your reactive anxiety. Because they do not feel effective empathy, their heart rate doesn't spike during an argument. They remain entirely composed. When you finally confront them about something they did to hurt you, they will look at you with a chilling mix of pity and concern. In a soft, soothing tone, they will deploy the weaponized apology. They will say, "I am so sorry that you interpreted my words that way," or "I apologize that this triggered your abandonment issues again." Notice the forensic linguistics of that sentence. They are not taking accountability for their behavior. They are clinically diagnosing your reaction. They are taking the deep, vulnerable secrets you shared with them in Chapter 2 and using them as the scapegoat for their current abuse. By remaining the picture of clinical stability while you are visibly distressed, they convince you that your brain is the one malfunctioning. So, if they are constantly chipping away at your reality, why is it so incredibly hard to just walk away? This brings us to the core mechanism of trauma bonding, intermittent reinforcement. If a dark empath were cruel to you 100% of the time, your survival instincts would kick in, you would pack your bags, and you would leave. They know this. Therefore, they meticulously calculate the ratio of pain to pleasure. After a week of subtle put-downs, weaponized silence, and emotional starvation, they will suddenly revert back to the magical person you met on day one. Out of nowhere, they will surprise you with extreme warmth. They will listen to you for hours, validate your feelings perfectly, and make you feel entirely cherished. This creates a whiplash effect in your nervous system. The cycle of extreme stress followed by sudden relief hijacks your brain's reward center, creating a biochemical loop of cortisol and dopamine that is structurally identical to a drug addiction. This creates a severe cognitive dissonance in your mind. You desperately tell yourself, they are a good person, they just have some bad moments. But here is the terrifying truth you must awaken to. Those moments of cruelty, those hurtful comments disguised as jokes, those times they calmly invalidated your reality. None of it was an accident. It was never a slip of the tongue. Every single joke that ever hurt your feelings was a calculated psychological experiment designed specifically to see exactly how much abuse you would tolerate before you tried to leave. They are actively pushing you to the edge of the cliff, just so they can play the hero by pulling you back. When you finally realize you are trapped in this relentless cycle of covert abuse, the most overwhelming emotion you feel usually isn't anger. It is profound, debilitating shame. You look back at the wreckage of your self-esteem and you ask yourself a haunting question. How could I have been so blind? Why was I so incredibly stupid to let this happen? If you take nothing else away from this psychological analysis, you must understand this one clinical truth. You were not blind, and you are certainly not stupid. You were the victim of a highly customized neurological hijacking, A dark empath does not have one fixed, rigid personality. They are psychological shapeshifters. They adjust their tactical approach entirely based on the specific wounds you carry. If you grew up with emotionally absent parents and you desperately crave a protector, they will flawlessly step into the role of your fierce guardian. If you are highly intellectual and feel chronically misunderstood by the world, they will seamlessly transform into your philosophical soulmate. They do not give you what they are. They give you a pristine, mirror reflection of exactly what your inner child is starving for. That overwhelming, intoxicating feeling you had in the beginning. The absolute conviction that you had finally found your twin flame. The person who completes you? That was not a cosmic, destined connection. It was a biologically engineered response. They supplied your brain with such high concentrations of dopamine and oxytocin through extreme validation that when they slowly began withdrawing it through those cruel microaggressions, your nervous system went into severe withdrawal. You didn't stay because you were weak. You stayed because your brain became chemically addicted to the trauma loop. You were desperately waiting for the magical person you met on day one to return, completely unaware that the person never actually existed in the first place. Now, it is important to note a nuance in behavioral psychology. Having the traits of a dark empath does not automatically guarantee someone will become a serial abuser. There are individuals with high cognitive empathy and dark triad traits who choose to channel these abilities into high-stakes professions, like crisis negotiation, corporate leadership, or intelligence work, without actively destroying their loved ones. But when an individual with this specific neurological makeup does choose to weaponize it in a personal relationship, the destruction is catastrophic. It is arguably more devastating than physical abuse. A physical bruise eventually fades, but a dark empath dismantles your fundamental grip on reality. So, the ultimate question remains. Out of everyone in the world, why did they specifically target you? A traditional narcissist usually targets people with high social status, wealth, or physical attractiveness to boost their own fragile ego. But a dark empath hunts for a very specific type of psychological profile. They actively seek out individuals who possess the one vital component they completely lack: true, effective empathy. They are magnetically drawn to highly sensitive people, caretakers, and individuals with a massive capacity for compassion. They are drawn to your light because they live in a sterile, strictly logical, and emotionally detached internal world. They are fascinated by your ability to feel things so deeply. They want to bask in the warmth of your genuine emotion, and then, parasitically, they want to siphon it to fuel themselves. You must stop blaming yourself for falling into their trap. You were not chosen because you were weak, foolish, or fundamentally broken. You were chosen because you possess a beautiful, powerful capacity to love and empathize, and they wanted to consume it. How do we finally break free from a mind that is constantly studying ours? To escape a dark empath, you must fundamentally redefine what you consider to be a good person. We have to understand the absolute difference between true empathy and weaponized empathy. True empathy is not just the cognitive ability to read a room, figure out what someone is thinking, or understand why they are crying. True empathy is always paired with compassion, morality, and a profound respect for your personal boundaries. It is the desire to see you heal and grow independently. If someone understands exactly how you feel, but uses that precise knowledge to maneuver you into a corner, make you doubt yourself, or foster a dependency on them, that is not empathy. That is emotional espionage. So, how do you defeat a psychological predator that feeds entirely on your emotional reactions? You cannot outsmart them by having a deep conversation. You cannot make them see the error of their ways by explaining how much they hurt you. Remember, they already know exactly how much they hurt you. They designed it that way. If you cry, argue, or beg for closure, you are simply giving them more data. You are feeding their ego and reinforcing their control. The only way to win the game is to refuse to step onto the chessboard. In behavioral psychology, the most effective defense mechanism against this personality type is known as the grey rock method. You must become as uninteresting, unresponsive, and emotionally flat as a grey rock. When they deploy a passive-aggressive comment, you do not get angry, and you do not nervously laugh to keep the peace. You simply look at them with a blank expression and give a neutral, one-word answer. You give them absolutely nothing. No dopamine, no cortisol, no reaction for them to analyze. Because their entire neurological wiring is addicted to influencing and controlling your emotional state, This absolute silence is the one thing they cannot tolerate. By cutting off their emotional supply, you starve them. They will quickly realize they can no longer hack your system, and they will move on to find an easier target. Walking away from a dark empath and turning totally cold towards someone who once felt like your soulmate is incredibly painful. But you must remember this truth. Becoming cold to a manipulator is not an act of cruelty. It is the ultimate act of self-preservation. It is the highest form of self-respect. You are not losing a protector. You are simply taking back the key to your own mind. Have you ever encountered a dark empath in your own life? What was your biggest realization or aha moment during this video? Let me know down in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read right now to realize they aren't going crazy. If this psychological breakdown opened your eyes and helped you understand your own mind a little better, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Arm yourself with more deep psychology and behavioral analysis, because the absolute best way to protect your mind is to understand it. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.